Good evening, workshoppers. Thank you for going through and joining us here on a special episode of the Westmarch Workshop. We're doing weekly episodes back to back. It's been a while. But next week is Thanksgiving, so it just worked out for all intents and purposes for us to go through and record an episode a week early, as opposed to then going through and being a week late. But then, of course, it ended up not going and working out because, unfortunately, Leviathan is sick. But, as a surprise, even though it's not a surprise, we told you all that he was coming, we do have a special guest here tonight. You know, the third wheel on the Westmarch Workshop, Dreadscythe. Go ahead, say hi.
Hi, from the third wheel.
Hey, you refused to do the opening, so I had to chide you somehow.
Okay, fine. I guess I deserve that.
Just tad bit, little bit. But yeah, so this episode is going to be, of course, another one kind of going through. This will probably be like our last episode that's kind of like dedicated towards BlizzCon and our Immortal thoughts and such. Last week we had Eldorian on. Over the weekend we had a special bonus episode where we got the thoughts and feelings of a bunch of our community members, as well as some people from like some other podcasts and such, to come on and talk about their experiences at or watching BlizzCon. But of course, you know, Dreadscythe is, you know, he is an official member of the Westmarch Workshop here, as well as the site manager for Diablo.blizzpro.com. And so we wanted to go through and have him on so that way he can share his thoughts about everything that happened at BlizzCon and Immortal. And then after that, since there's not a lot of news to go through and cover, we've got a lot of community feedback to go through. So the last part of this episode is going to be dedicated a lot towards just, you know, going and catching up on your emails. We've got some. Watson, I know your Paladin email is sitting there. Don't worry. Tonight is tonight. Tonight is the night. Because, of course, tonight is tonight. I'm doing it again. You have to forgive me. I got home from work about 20 minutes ago. So I am tired. But anyways, we are going to go through and get on with it. But of course, as always, our weeks in gaming. What have you been up to, Dread?
Contemplating Diablo. That's been about it. Soul searching on Diablo. That's pretty much been it. I think I played like an hour at most last night with Shep and Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I think I reached the 16-hour mark last night of the season.
Ooh, special.
Yeah, yeah, there hasn't been much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much been it. Yeah, that's pretty much been it. And I'll say it. I'm going to say it now because it's going to come up later. It's going to be part of. Just so everyone knows, I proposed an executive order motion to 9, and he was okay with it. I'm actually going to start with the bad first and then talk about the good, and then we'll do the community feedback or whatever. So we end the show on a more light note and positive note rather than having a trough in the middle of the show. But the reason why I'm bringing this up in particular is, well, because, you know, in life it's happening, and also it's going to play a little bit into, you know, my perspective on the matter. So I'm announcing on the Westmarch Workshop, and eventually I'll get it on Twitter probably tonight or tomorrow, finally, after all this time, that my wife and I are actually pregnant.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I didn't know. I knew that your wife was pregnant. I didn't know that you were pregnant as well. As you
no, this isn't twins.
It's not a tumor.
No, it's not. Thank you, everybody. But it'll be made clear why I'm bringing that up now, because, well, it's good news. Don't mar it up by bad, negative energy. But also because, like, you know, I finally have to start telling people. Like, you know, I was able to wait long enough. You do not know how hard it was to wait a month and a half to not tell everyone before BlizzCon. to wait until we were all in the room. I could tell at least everyone live in person. But that's getting too far ahead of ourselves. How's your weekend gaming? Transition.
Transition. I think I've doubled my seasonal playtime over the past week. You know, I was able to go through and hit it pretty hard at the beginning of the season, but then since that opening weekend, I've had trouble going through and dedicating time to it. And even though work has been going through and stopping me, I've been, you know, I really like this this particular portrait, so it's one that I wanted to go through and get to Guardian. So I've been playing a lot. You know, a lot of thanks to Fred for going through and helping me out. Getting me through, as well as DW, just getting some getting some higher grade rifts, getting some of my augment gems done and such. Just been going through, wanting to get some stuff done. Yep. And waiting and seeing from where we go next from here. Also, just taking a look out to see some of the other things that the community has been doing. I know Lost Ark is like the new hotness that people have been going through and talking about. And then also...
If you can read Korean.
Yeah. And then also I've been trying... I said this on the previous episode. I've been trying out the Crusaders of Light. And so far it hasn't been going too well. It's not that the game isn't fun. It's that the game won't let me play it. The way that the system is set up is like every time that I go through, it's like I finally like got to the at first I thought it was like just the tutorial, like going through the tutorial, but then I like got to the main city and then it starts giving you like the quests, go here, kill this, go here, kill that. There's like nowhere on the map does it you know, tell you where you're supposed to go. The only way that you can figure it out is to click the quest, which then engages autoplay. And so you just start heading over there and killing all the stuff on your own. And it was just like, I want to play the game, but the game doesn't want to let me play. The game wants me to watch. In some weird, sadistic, voyeuristic type of way. But yeah, needless to say, I really haven't gotten that far into the game itself. Because it's just frustrating. Very frustrating.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. But without further ado, go ahead. Like we said, this is going to be kind of like our final wrap-up of BlizzCon and, you know, post-BlizzCon Immortal thoughts until we get anything, you know, new to say on the matter in future episodes. But floor is yours, sir. Go ahead and let us know what you're thinking.
Oh, God. I've honestly been thinking, I guess to give some pretense, the reason why, one of the reasons, okay, 1 minute thing before I actually get started. The last couple of years of my life, one of the biggest lessons I was ever gifted, and this is the reason why I'm going to say a lot of things I'm going to say, but it's going to kind of be a stream of conscious type deal. I'm going to try to keep it as streamlined as possible.
I got the whip.
Yeah, I know, but it's to demonstrate where I was, the path that I took, and where I finally wound up, and what I'm still looking forward to very much with Diablo. But the biggest lesson I was ever given in life by someone other than a family member or a friend was the one of perspective, and it was done in a very physical way. And the way it was done is there was a group of us, and we were all sitting in a circle, and in the middle there was just a table, and there was like, you know, like a salt crystal or like a rock, whatever you want to call it, in the middle. And the person said, "Look at the rock, what do you see?" And we went around and we all kind of said, you know, what we saw. And then he said, okay, you understand what you saw, you verbalize what you saw, and you understand that what other people saw was different from you, but you understand why you saw things are different, because they saw something differently than you did, right? And we all kind of agreed, and then that's when kind of the lesson of perspective kind of opened up, and we were discussed like, okay, how could we gain a better perspective, a better understanding, and ultimately a better sense of respect for other people's viewpoints and understandings. So that was a good thing, and I've been applying it all over the place with politics, with, you know, little things here and there, to indiscretions with my wife about, you know, money and everything else. It's been a great asset, if not tool. And the reason why I brought up that we were having a child is because for the longest time, I like 10, 15 years ago, if I was angry, I would have been angry for days. It would have affected me physically, but I've gotten better with that. And also, when you're having a child, you have to have patience because you're going to be sleepy and everything, but it's a child, it needs you to live and everything. So I've been gaining a sense of patience back, which has been pretty weird. So with that out of the way and focusing on BlizzCon, I'm going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say brutal, but I will say honest on this show, because like the Hollywood 48-hour weekend cleanse, gets the toxins right out of you, and then you have to worry about it again. So I'd rather do it once, be honest, get it out of my system. And it's not the hype up what I'm going to say, but it's just, I'm going to let myself be honest, because if we don't, then we hold on to it, we get angry, and then we don't let go. So going into BlizzCon, now I initially thought it had to be Diablo 4 because they had the comics, they had the book, and this is all precursors to Reaper Souls pretty much, and also vanilla, along with when the schedule and the panels were coming out, everything was lining up. And for me, it wasn't so much D4 or bust, but the thing is, I've been looking past Diablo 3 for such a long time. Just in thinking of systems and tools that could fix the current game along with what I want in the next game, being Diablo 4. I was like, I just want the next thing, not because I want something new, but because I want something that should be better than what we have. And I think a lot of people are in that place, more or less. So once we got the blog post, I would essentially, not de-hyping us, but essentially say, it's not what you expect. So in the pecking order, with D4 being the top, an expansion for Diablo 3 being the next thing, and then a character pack, and then regular content patch. With Diablo 4 out of the way, the expansion was never going to happen in a sense. And I can use that word never because a DLC they put about a year's worth of work in, we got about a year's worth of content out of it. An expansion, they put 2 to 3 years into it, you get about 2-3 years out of it. A full-fledged game, you put 4 to 5 years of effort into it, you hope you get at least 3 to 4 years out of it. Those numbers and years may vary, but that's what you typically expect. So if Diablo 4 was not announced we know it's coming soon, they can't be putting money, time, and effort into an expansion for Diablo 3 because it would run parallel and actually come out right before, right as, or in line with Diablo 4. So it didn't make timeline sense either.
Well, so I mean, also that there's just been like tons of evidence that there's game files with scrapped expansion 2 code and stuff like that kind of shows that a second expansion just is never going to happen.
Yeah, so I mean that's like all. I mean, yes, that helps the argument, but just internalize it. It just didn't make it just doesn't make sense from top level wise. So what are we left with? With a DLC pack, the Druid, which we keep on saying, and I think to some extent we keep on reinforcing, like it has to be the Druid, it has to be the Druid, it has to be the Druid. But it's only because of the wings and what Leviathan found on that one Twitter conversation on the PTR. That's all we have. It could just be playful conjecture at this point. It may not be a Druid. There may not be any class, and at this point, I don't think there is going to be a class, because reasons. Well, is it worth putting a year of time now? Because now we have hindsight. If they didn't have a character pack ready now, are they going to put in a year's worth of time to have a character pack out next year? And is that what we really want? Not really. So we're left with a content patch, and we wouldn't be getting a content patch because why would they do the video? It would be so out of place. We've gotten content patches and everything announced at BlizzCon was so much more, like new stats, new items, the crafting tab, Kanai's cube, all that was announced at BlizzCon in a regular content patch without a hype video. So again, the PR that was putting in versus what we could have gotten, it didn't line up. So after the Westmarch workshop episode, which we went into this in much more length, after Leviathan said, I think for the 10th time, between Slack and Twitter and everything else, but like the last time it finally rang true, like even if they announced Diablo 4, it doesn't mean it comes out tomorrow. It could come out in a year or 2 or 3. What changes the day after? Absolutely nothing. So basically, my expectations for Diablo this year, when I really look back, I didn't have any. I honestly didn't have any because I was so confused between the video and the blog, what was coming out, how at least in the past, how it lined up, and there's nothing to make of it. So I think that's where everyone was confused, but we were all soldiering on because they have to have something, ? So we get to opening ceremony, and I'm not gonna lament as a lot of people have on independent shows and everything. I'm just gonna fast forward through the opening ceremony, through the what's next and the lore panel and everything else. And just going through everyone's reactions and just picking up on the constants and picking up on like what people were saying. I'm literally I heard a click. You want to jump in real quick?
No.
Oh, okay. Listening through the constants and what everyone was saying and how we always try to be our best selves, but we are feeble human creatures, and sometimes whether we realize it or not, whether we want to or not, whether we want to look back and say we did or not, both the community in some respects and Blizzard failed this BlizzCon. The way our relationship with Blizzard, and especially the Diablo team, didn't change, but the transactional nature of a gaming development house and its player base was revealed, because the absolute repulsion of the majority of the community to Immortal. The game's not done yet. We can still have a voice. We can still look at it, even if we want to flat out ignore it, which it seems a lot of the community just wants to do. There's a lot of it's short-term hurrah for us, but we are going to nip ourselves hard in the butt later on, and I'll get to that at the appropriate time. I'll get to it as quickly as possible, so that's why it doesn't seem like we're drowning out. But the reason why I was disappointed in the community, not ashamed, even though at some points it seemed like I was getting close, but I'm like, again, that perspective lesson I said earlier is what led me to this, and then I understood, and then I came back to a place of respecting, of re-respecting. I know it's a bad term. Everyone in the community, because you know what, everyone is allowed to feel what they want to feel. You have to, if you want to be allowed to feel upset, hurt, and everything, or whatever, you have to allow everyone else to feel disheartened, disappointed, whatever, and then you move through it together. That's what you're supposed to do. We are a community. We work through this as a community. So the reason why I was disappointed, because for all the times that we were saying, oh, it's not Diablo 4, it's not Diablo 4, you guys are silly for thinking it's Diablo 4, whether it was the streamers or who else in the community for saying, oh no, you're wrong. But we didn't know. We honestly didn't know. We were assuming a lot. I think that's also kind of a problem over the last couple of years with all this hype. We assume too much at multiple levels in the community, whether you're just a fan, you're a podcaster, you're a streamer, or you're an influencer, or whoever you are. We are assuming too much. We're assuming too much now with the season 16 seasonal changes. We're saying,
Mhm.
oh, there's gonna be changes. We don't know what they are, but we're spreading it around like they're gonna be these magical changes. There needs to be some self-reflection on this point. I didn't like when people were saying, and if anyone's out there, fight me on this. I didn't like when people were saying, the PCs we have, this is your hardcore PC base. Why would you do it at BlizzCon? All these things. Because again, first it seems like I'm going against community, but I'm not. I'm saying we are fans. We vote with our money. That is the transactional nature between us as fans and Blizzard as a development house, or Bethesda as the development house, or as any other developer. We vote with our money, not second with our voices. Because we could say we hate this for love, for anything, but if it does succeed monetarily, it is still a winner at the end of the day. So that's what we have to, keep in mind. That's why I usually don't buy a lot of stuff at BlizzCon, because I don't want to support Blizzard through products. I want to support it through the games and microtransactions through the games, so they see that people are buying stuff through the game and support the game that way. That's the trend. And when people say, and the whole computer bit and how we all spend our money to go to BlizzCon, we say like, and how like that, we're not paid to be there and everything, but it's like, yeah, we get media badges sometimes. We get access to, the food and the press site banner sometimes. It's like, we're not paid. We're not given money. Blizzard is a wonderful company that will allow us, if we get media badges at BlizzCon, to still speak our mind. So it's actually a monetary loss for them in the end. But we have to acknowledge that. And the whole thing, it's like, when we're trying not to come off as entitled and express our feelings, sometimes it kind of does. But at the end of the day, it's because we're emotional. Because we have an emotional attachment to these games, because these games didn't come out 2 years ago or 5 years ago. They came out 20 years ago. For some people, this is how they got started in gaming. I still have the fondest attachment to StarCraft because that's how I got started in Blizzard. And that's why I love Kerrigan and Jim Raynor so much, because their story was so humble yet so vast in that story. And I get that. But we as people have to, as the community, have to make sure we hold ourselves to a higher degree. Because when we jumped in that, we were only proving everyone else wrong. Right at that point, entitled babies and all this kind of stuff. However, yes, Blizzard did a humongous PR flop. But at the same time, they have a right to release whatever game they want to show in any manner they want at BlizzCon. It's just a fact. Would it have been better to show it maybe at PAX East or Gamescom next year or another con? Definitely. I agree with that. But at the same time, I don't think there was ever going to be a good time to show this mobile game. None. Whether you attach it to a D4 announcement or you attach it to an expansion or a DLC or content, if it was something like a Diablo 3 content or a DLC pack, the amount of effort that on the surface that would look like it was going into the mobile game versus the content or DLC pack, everyone would have been up in arms saying, why are you putting so much effort in this mobile game? Why aren't you giving us more content here? Or if it was an expansion or Diablo 4, people would be like, okay, we can just happily ignore this because we're happy we finally got, an expansion announcement or Diablo 4. I don't think there's ever a way to win with this announcement. That's kind of what I took away from this. There's no way to win on Blizzard's side. So they decided, and quite honestly, I think everyone's trying to make excuses for Brandy and Wyatt and Matthew Berger specifically. But they work for Blizzard. They are passionate about Blizzard through and through. they were probably legitimately excited to show this off in one way or another. And everyone's looking at Wyatt, how he was like nervous and everything when he was announcing it. Remember, he was announcing for the first time ever in his career, I think, because he didn't announce Reaper of Souls at Gamescom, to my best knowledge. He was at the release party, but not the announcement. I could imagine him just being excited and at the same time equally terrified that he's about to go before 40,000 plus people at BlizzCon and millions watching around the world. Everyone is watching him. No matter how excited you are, no matter how much you want to share this awesome thing you've been working on so far with him, with the Western world, you are going to be petrified of some amount of stage fright in some way or manner. Metzen was like that before they announced Overwatch. If you don't remember that, go. Like the whole 30 seconds before it finally announced like Overwatch as the title, he was taking a deep breath. He was going, whoo. He was like, here we go. So you know, so I've been working through all these feelings, trying to see it through both sides, trying to get perspective. And I think at the end of it, it kind of felt like a divorce in a way. It kind of felt that bad, because it kind of felt like, especially for people who were community members like yourself, Leviathan, Riker, Drop, Blood, old people, especially people who had to decide at this particular moment, am I actually going to take a chance and stream this, or am I going to decline because I just don't want to deal with how the community is right now? And I get that. You have a right to make that decision. It just boiled down to, I felt we as fans were separating from Blizzard, and the love that we have felt like it was dying. And at the same time, the children in the divorce being, you know, the individual streamers, fan bases were yelling like, we don't like Blizzard. We don't want to go with Blizzard. We want to stay with you. Please don't make us go with Blizzard. It kind of felt that bad when you really look back at it. And I think that's why it was so painful. And that's why, even though I went through that stream of conscious, my thought of the last week and a half, when I come back to it, I still respect everyone for their opinion and what they did or what they didn't do. I just think at the end of the day, when it comes to Diablo Immortal itself, if you're not going to support it officially, if you're not going to buy it, fine. But we as the community can't jump on it and lament on it and say, oh, we're not going to do it. Because then we kind of become part of the problem after a while. And then we kind of internalize those jokes in our chats. And then we kind of start festering to the way the community, the Diablo 3 community was like the first 3 years. It was hell. And that's not to be punny. Like, it was hell. There were a few top people, they bashed on the game, and that was the cool thing to do. We can't have that be what our great community right now turns into again. And then we have to wait a couple years for new people to come along. We can't have that. So if you don't want to support it, fine. But if you don't feel you can support it because you can't do this out of the third, but you still may buy it just to look at the lore, which I know you're going to be interested in, as long as the economic model of it allows for that.
Pretty much.
We have to support it, because at the end of the day, the biggest thing that I took away from Immortal, if you want to jump in real quick, you can.
The one thing that I do want to kind of like say, because I think I see like the train of thought where you're going with this one. From my understanding with Blizzard, you know, one project doesn't fund another. Just because World of Warcraft does poorly doesn't mean that resources get pulled from, you know, Diablo. They all have their own individual you know, finances that go through and run them. And when you go through and you have new games that are going through and being spun up, they have their own, you know, budgets and business models that are pretty much drawn on what their expectations of their, you know, return on investment is going to be. So yeah.
No, I definitely get what you're saying,
yeah.
And I definitely agree with it, and that's the way it is. But I wasn't going there, but I guess in some ways it's a parallel to what you brought up, because I only played the demo 3 times. I played the wizard twice. I played the monk once. I didn't play the barbarian because I just don't play melee classes. It's unfortunate. I would love to play crusader. I just can't get the melee classes. Even though technically every class is a melee class, but that's a whole nother subject. And you know, criticisms of the game itself, the thing that got me, the thing that gave me that moment of like, I was playing Diablo 3 for the first time again in a way. When we saw the What's Next panel, it was either the What's Next panel or the actual game, or the actual opening ceremony footage. When that new skill, Lightning Nova for the wizard, was shown off, which is basically, call it what it is. It's basically taking one of Diablo's abilities from Heroes of the Storm and just making it instead of fireballs, it's lightning, and it's on the wizard itself. So let's call it what it is, but it's an awesome ability. And the way it tracked when you use teleport, I thought that was amazing. It's simple, but I thought it was amazing. And the first half of the Diablo Immortal demo I did, I was just trying to learn the controls because I'd never really played a mobile game like that ever. But I started getting the hang of it, of doing the combos, and then the second playthrough I was doing it every time, and then I was learning how to finish it off with a quick meteor in the spot that all the lightning novas are coming to, and it was so satisfying. And people ask, like, how is that satisfying compared to like Diablo 3? It's satisfying because it's basic combos again. It's just using what you got and just making it work in the best way possible. It's probably what like Tony, Big Daddy Dan, is feeling right now with the no set challenge. It's, you don't use sets, so you just have to use lower level stuff to make the best thing you can. And the teleport and the lightning nova combo, it just works. There's no legendary affix that says, you know, lightning nova balls come back to you. No, that's the skill itself. And I thought, we can't lose this, because if this is the next gen engine and they're able to do this kind of stuff with Immortal, you know, platform be damned, we can at least say we may not buy it, but we support what they're doing, you know, ability wise, skill wise, the way that they're handling maybe items, hope maybe in a different way. We have to at least acknowledge what they're doing, the hard work they're putting in, to make sure we say those things are worth doing. So that's why if the Diablo 4 team says, oh, they really like that, maybe they can pull inspiration from that.
Yeah, it's everything that we see, you know, in Diablo Immortal. Like if you go down the list of all of the features, you know, within the game, you're like, okay, cool, I like that. Yeah, okay, cool, give it to me. You know, it's everything that we'd love to see, you know, like in a added into D3, or things that we would definitely hope are included in Diablo 4. That's something that I know, like, Steven and I have talked a bit offline. You know, that is like, it almost is like Diablo Immortal is a bit of like a field test for mechanics that they want to do in Diablo 4. Though I don't really think that is, you know, exactly the case. But it definitely is, at least, if nothing else, testing what they can do with an ARPG and a PBR engine.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of put like a nice bow on this part of the discussion. Almost instantly, I started calling Diablo Immortal an experimental sandbox, because they can do anything. I mean, that may be scary for people who are long time, you know, supporters from Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, because you may have a set vision for what Diablo is, even though I don't say this to be rhetorical, to be or, you know, facetious, but to this day, no one's really ever explained what gritty actually is, or what that dark gothic fantasy actually is, or, you know, just wanting something with a lot of gore. Like, those are nice things, those are nice ideas, but no one's ever really described them in such a way that gives me something definitively different than what Diablo 3 is.
So, I mean, from what I have garnered from conversations on Reddit and such, that all those things are basically, it's not Diablo 3. That's the only the only explanation I've ever gotten, is that no matter how many like blood circles and like mutilated corpses and just piles of sacrificial victims and things of that nature, that apparently is not gory or dark enough. But the 20 by 20 pixelated red puddle that you just assume is blood is apparently like the pinnacle of gothic horror back in D2. Yeah, so I mean that definitely is one of those ones where it's like I want to say that those types of comments are really just coming from that vocal minority that just does not like anything about Diablo 3, as well as some people that are just kind of like going through and chiming in and are just refusing to acknowledge some of the darker aspects of the game. I mean, I'm sure that there are people out there that have never played Diablo 3 that their entire mental image is still the rainbow, from the reveal cinematic.
Yeah. But so yeah, I mean that kind of wraps up the Diablo Immortal-esque side of it. There's only a tiny bit more, and then getting the more positive aspects of BlizzCon. But like, yeah, I mean, for Diablo Immortal, as I've described it to everybody, for what it is as a mobile game, for what they have done, which I think everyone is forgetting. They're writing it off. The game's not even done yet. It's like, can we be any more pretentious? Anyways, for what it is and what they showed, I like it. Will I buy it? It depends 100% on the economic model. If they get the economic model right, I'll get it. Get it wrong, who knows? I may get it as a base and then just go however long I can free. Who knows? That's in their court. That's in their accountants and what they expect. But for what gameplay they had and for what skills they had to show and for the features and the smoothness of the controls, yeah, it takes a little bit to get used to. But that's everything. If you're going from PC to console, you're going to have a little bit of learning curve. Same thing the other way. So, yeah, the game is great. I'll say it. And also, another thing to realize, there's... No, go ahead.
I was just about to say, that's one of those things that everyone that I talked to at BlizzCon enjoyed playing the game. Well, I guess not everybody, but the vast majority. I think like JR and Echo Hack were like the only people that did not like the game. But it's really funny talking to certain Diablo personalities at the convention, hearing their thoughts on the show floor playing the game, and then going back and hearing some of their thoughts later, once posted to YouTube, and that there's suddenly a change in between. I guess, from a certain aspect, I think Riker put it most eloquently, is that, you kind of have to cater some things, to your fan base. And that was like a part of, if you haven't watched Riker's like video from BlizzCon, I know it's like an hour long, but it definitely is worth the watch, because the guy is just so like honest and genuine in everything that he does. And so it's like he's really conflicted, because he knows what the community wants. He knows what the community wants his reaction to be, and it's not quite what it is. Like, he's disappointed, but for kind of different reasons than like what the community is. But it's definitely a cool video.
Yeah, I think I got 40 minutes through, and then I fell asleep, but that was my bad. I was watching at like 10:30. I started watching at 10:30 at night, and then I conked out, and then it ended when I woke up. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna try to figure out where I left off. So that kind of wraps up Diablo Immortal, and a lot of the stuff. A brief side to that is, and this is actually about Diablo 4. And even though it sounds strange to be talking about it, I think with recent events, other games, I think it's actually pretty relative to the topic. This is probably one of the only times I will deeply and profoundly, to the core of my being, disagree with everyone, especially JR, on how they cannot in any way ever use a Diablo 4 30-second teaser trailer as part of an apology tour for what BlizzCon was. First of all, I don't believe we need an apology tour. They said what they said. They're listening. How much they could do in a tight development cycle to give us something is up for question. It's probably more of just being said just so they acknowledge that a vast majority of the player base is upset. That's fine. They did that. We have to acknowledge it, and I think a lot of people are. But you cannot use Diablo 4, even a 30-second teaser trailer, as an apology for what BlizzCon was. Because in that regard, we are this one getting back to from door, we are shooting ourselves in the foot that way. Because the moment that trailer gets released, it is the moment the people start asking questions. It's the moment people start getting their hype up. And then next year, when we don't get any information, people are going to start inquisiting more. They're going to start getting upset. Like, why do we not have any more information? It's been a year since you gave this to us. It's going to be the ever persistent questioning and no answers, because some people just don't understand. They're going to show us stuff when it is ready. The Diablo team is probably the most marred by history when it comes to games showing things too early or showing things in such a way like Immortal and being burned for it. So to immediately turn around and say we want more open communication or we want more of this, it's kind of perpetuating the cycle one way or another. And most importantly, if they show a teaser trailer, whether it does or doesn't by Blizzard's development cycle, it starts a metaphorical clock on when they have to release and show more information. Otherwise just the 30-second trailer comes off as a disingenuous apology to something the community views as repulsive in some respects, and it's just going to keep the layering of community outrage going. So what should Blizzard actually be? Okay, you can go ahead.
I was just going to say it's one of those things that's like, but for all intents and purposes, Blizzard has said that they're working on Diablo 4 and, just not in so many words. Everything from the we know what it is that you're asking for, and we're still working on other projects. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more. So I don't think. Well, but at this point, I think the community just wants them to actually fully acknowledge it.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, because once they acknowledge it, they can't turn back. They can't say, "Oh shit, we need an extra 6 months of development time. Why did we actually do that?" Like simple things. It was a reason why I said if D4 was being announced this year, it wouldn't be at Gamescom, it would be at BlizzCon, so they would have another 2.5 months of development time. Like, why wouldn't you give yourself 2.5 months of development time and have it at your BlizzCon convention? Theoretically thinking on the matter.
I don't think that those two things are correlated whatsoever.
If they aren't, they aren't. But I just feel at this point, Diablo 4 needs as much time in the oven as possible before it's shown to us, because it leads into the second part with GGG basically saying that Betrayal, their newest expansion, and through the words of Ziggy D, a YouTuber who covers a lot of Path of Exile, and I give him a lot of credit because I saw about 10 minutes of one of his YouTubes being streamed on Dropadooski's stream, so basically kind of like meta streaming videos, so to speak. I actually understood a lot of what was coming in Betrayal, and I'm like, oh shit, like it made sense why GGG was putting so much effort into Betrayal, because they basically said this was going to be our counterpoint to what they perceived was coming at BlizzCon, which was D4. Even they thought Diablo 4 was coming, and they felt we needed to bring something big to our game in order to stay level. But with there being nothing on Diablo's side, not only did they put a lot of effort into something, not only is that effort going to bear a lot of fruit, because it's changing a lot of things. It's simplifying certain parts of the game. It's adding different ways of getting affixes on your items, and also ways of putting it on other items. It's like, okay, it's like, imagine, like, for all intents and purposes, one part of the expansion, it's like, imagine like the furnace rolls, and it has a mysterious affix on it to identify the, you go to the enchanter, and these 3 new affixes pop up. But not only do these 3 new affixes pop up, they have a scroll, they have basically a bar underneath them that fills up. So I think the more you see that, the stronger it gets. And there's actually not really a negative to picking that affix, because if you pick it, even though it may not be good for that piece of gear, you can actually forge that affix on something you would craft, say, at the blacksmith. Now, it doesn't sound all that exciting in Diablo 3, because how much stuff do you actually use at the blacksmith, per se? But in a game where, you know, the gear is kind of, and the crafting and the gearing is all intertwined, that's actually pretty brilliant when you think about it. So there's stuff like that. There's the new league that's coming in. There's everything. So even though I said it would be terrible to use Diablo 3 teaser because it starts an artificial clock, in my opinion, there's one already started by GGG with what they're doing, because not only do they have what they're doing with this expansion, they have 4.0 coming out next year at their first ever ExileCon. So I'm not trying to sound the alarm bells or be alarmist, but just being realistic and acknowledging where the games are in their respective places. And Diablo is behind, and will only continue to fall behind until we get more inkling to get more actions out of Blizzard. But there is a laundry list of what people are expecting, especially if they're trying to win people over from, say, perspective Wolcen, or perspective Last Epoch, or perspective or disenfranchised PoE Diablo players that are now playing PoE but would like to come back to Diablo. There's an ever increasing laundry list of things that they're going to have to offer, that it's almost going to be impossible to have those already launched. So they're going to need to have a 2-3 year plan for Diablo 4, and they're going to need to communicate that well. So at the end of it, I think a lot of what we agree on is that Blizzard needs to communicate more, but they need to communicate more through action, not through words. But it's going to take time, because actions is only through, you know, what they do and what they have developed, and that takes man hours, and you can only cram so many man hours with so many people in a day. So that's kind of where I am on the whole Diablo Immortal and, you know, greater future of Diablo. I still feel the future of Diablo is bright. I feel we're at a low point right now, but I feel the community is starting to come back. You know, we're airing our grievances, we're getting it out of our system, and I think the majority of voices are kind of dying down, and everyone's saying, like, no, Diablo Immortal is a thing. Let's at least try to wait until we get a full game, or at least updates, and most importantly, let's see what the economic model is, and then we'll see where we're really at.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, sorry. You ended your point just as I muted myself to go through and type something in chat. Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely have to wait and see. But it does look like, you know, out of these, it's like, for me, I'm having difficulties just because, like, Immortal came out of nowhere. You know, this was the we've said it before. The mobile was just like the meme response. And then it became reality. Mm-hmm. So where where else?
Oh God!
Where else do these multiple projects go through and come? Because they continued.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And like, not even like hashtag sorry, not sorry. But oh God, don't let your memes be dreams.
Yeah, but one of the interesting things is as they were going through and talking, about Immortal, they kept referencing multiple projects. So, other than Immortal, so like we know that there's Immortal, there's D4, and then there's something else, and that this is internal from Blizzard, that they have. They specifically said that they have multiple teams at Blizzard working on multiple Diablo projects, multiple gaming projects. So there's at least a third out there. What could that be? Is that the offered rumored remaster? Maybe. Could it be something different? Could there be another stopgap in between Immortal and Diablo 4 if it is actually going to be many years off?
Yeah, I mean, I would think, in relationship to Diablo 4, we're at least, I think I fall in with a lot of people saying we're at least 2 years out from an announcement. I think after this BlizzCon, with how everything is going, and that, that checklist of announcement versus blog that I did much earlier in the show, I feel we're at least another 2 years before we get an official announcement. I think there's that much time that's needed.
I like how chat immediately goes in, and we've got like 3 different like mobile suggestions at what the next project could be. Thank you for not disappointing on that one.
It's going to be a tower defense game with the different towers from the Vault of the Assassins.
Yep, that one's in there. That was one of them. New mobile tower defense game. It's interesting about, like, we really have no idea what is coming next. We've got no idea what they're working on. What if it, as part of Blizzard's apology, was like kind of like the nudge nudge wink wink Diablo 4, but then they show us what else they're working on. I don't know. This is the other big thing that kind of throws everything. Even though I was just going through and saying earlier that like the Diablo 3 expansion is off the table, we really don't know anything about how classic games works or how big they are, because they're taking on a lot of projects and they're doing a lot, and they're now going to be like a 2-year turnaround time between the release of StarCraft Remastered and then the release of Warcraft 3 Remastered. I imagine that there was some work that was going on during the StarCraft 2 Remastered for the Warcraft 3, just because the level of changes that they're making in Reforged, that maybe they're working on something else. Maybe they have some people that are dedicated solely just to going through and making more D3 content. Maybe Team 3 had no interest in going through and making a druid, but Classic Games is like, yeah, cool, let's go and do it. Because there were a few devs I went through and talked with at BlizzCon that they weren't on Classic Games, so they weren't working on Diablo 3 anymore. They weren't working on Diablo Immortal, but they were still working on Diablo. So yeah, there's definitely some other stuff that's going on in the background there, and there like I said, we've got no idea what any of it could be.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a good thing you went on this. I don't want to say tangent, but it's good because I think I need to point something out to the audience, because I kind of knew it, but when I thought about it, it kind of also made sense why we're kind of like waiting for the next thing, because a lot of Blizzard. Okay, no, the way Blizzard has changed its development cycles for a lot of its games, in fact, all of its games, except Diablo, has made them almost reliable content engines, in quotes.
That goes back to kind of like the our endpoint at the round table of having games as a service, no longer as a game. That it's not just like when we were all growing up and going and playing games, like the original Diablo in 1996 or Diablo 2 in 2000, that there was a change, there that happened, probably largely, in fact, due to like World of Warcraft around 2004, 2005, that a single release game just was no longer enough. That, well, okay, cool, you added, some better online components to Halo 2, but I want more game modes and more maps. Oh, so here's some map packs, and so everything started becoming more DLCs, and of course, back then it was, well, here's your core game, and then, we'll add on, here's your burger, we'll add on some French fries, for the DLC pack. Now a lot of companies are, they took it too far. In order to get like the core game experience, you had to buy the DLC and all that. It definitely seems that the market is shifting again, and it's going more towards, I want a full-fledged product, and then the company is going and adding additional free support, and then the things that you do pay for are actually like worth paying for. And I feel that's like a big thing of just the way that by the time Diablo 4 releases, it's just going to be like the industry standard. Like it's going to see less and less of renumbered, revisions of these different games coming out every year. You might not be seeing, a new Call of Duty every year or a new Assassin's Creed every year, but instead you're going to get more, like games as a service, and that they'll be adding in, big content releases that you might pay, a DLC charge for. You might not, in order to go through and just keep the game fresh and exciting and put more development resources into, like what comes next, if that's even needed. Maybe you might just have, if they are going to go like an MMO route, you could just see something along the lines of, World of Warcraft. I was going to say Destiny, but since Destiny actually came out with like a Destiny 2, that might not be the best cycle, but something that's just like a continually supported game that you can just log into and play, for years at a time. That's what we're looking for. That's what people want. That's what people are a little bit, I didn't get as much time out of D3 as I did D2, but also like your tastes have changed. What you expect from the game has changed. And, D3 was just released at a, more or less a kind of like a bad time in the history of things where that fundamental change was happening. And now it's kind of just a bit fallen behind. Whereas, like Path of Exile coming out just a little while after D3, and also just its way of being supported through microtransactions, for cosmetics and such, is different, that they're able to go through and continue to get that level of support, because that kind of game as a service was already built into it from the beginning. And that could be just signs of what we look forward to in the future.
Yeah, I really think that's going to be the way. I think that's probably, I don't say it's the only way, but it's probably like the best way for Diablo D4 / next, what you coined so many years ago, and I use it, as a token of appreciation for you coming up with that term.
And just one thing, I've seen more people going through and saying Diablo next, but it's not because of me, it's because Riker said it in one of his videos, and it irks me just a little bit, because I've been saying, like you said, I've been over a year now.
I remember. Yeah, so, as I put the drink down.
I love you, Riker. I love you. I just want to say that. I absolutely love you. No, all love, man. No hate.
Yeah, but yeah, like exactly what you said. It's like you look at World of Warcraft every other year, another expansion. Look at StarCraft every year, another co-op commander. Look at Overwatch, at least a new hero, maybe a map. This was the first year they came and said, yeah, we don't have a map this year. Like, okay, but they still got a hero. Heroes, at least a hero, if not two. Maybe an announcement of an event that's coming out. And then Hearthstone, they know they're getting their 3 expansions over the course of the year. That's why those games, except for maybe a WoW, yeah, you get excited for the announcements, but when you know they're coming, it's like there's a certain element of surprise or wonderment that kind of isn't there. With the WoW expansion, yeah, you get it, but you kind of don't know what it is, or like at least what I mean, the cinematics team for all the games, I think, kind of probably overshadows that to a bit. But it's like Diablo is like the last of the old way of doing things, like exactly how you said. It's like it's a crapshoot. We could be getting something, nothing, or everything, and yet still be disappointed. So it's like, okay. So that's probably what's going to happen when it comes to D4. But I think we've gotten this coffin nailed up pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are things I missed, but like, you know what? Let them be on the disappointment room floor. Let's soldier on to the more positive events of BlizzCon that at least mine, but are largely shared with what you guys experience.
Yep. And then we've got a lot of emails, so we kind of want to start getting to that sometime shortly.
Alrighty. So, well, I'll just go through it, I guess.
Yep.
Briefly. Well, if anyone didn't know, 9, Leviathan Knight, Nolan, who's monstrous, one of our fearless forum MVPs on the official forums, and SVR, we all grouped up together this year. So 6 of us in a room.
So we're obviously playing Diablo 2.
Yes, because 6 divided by 3 equals 2.
I was just saying Diablo 2 is the only Diablo game that supports up to 8 players.
See, you got me there. Here's my Diablo card. Here. Yeah, so we all got in, we all hung out, we all had a hotel, we were all together, and it was great. It was nice to see SVR, and he wasn't able to after his like 20-hour travel schedule, and it was just nice seeing everybody again, because for me, I probably spend about $1,500 to go to BlizzCon every year. It's always for the people. Announcements be damned. Like, I'll go to the BlizzCon. I'll go to the Diablo panels. I probably won't go to any of the panels. I won't go to any other esports. The food trucks. It's like literally food trucks, Diablo panels, opening ceremony, and then that's it. It's people after that. Because it's literally one day out of the year. Everyone is there for the same reason, and we just get to geek and nerd out over everything, and that's the calling of BlizzCon. For anyone that was there, that this happened to be their first BlizzCon and they're really Diablo fans, I'm sorry you got such a raw deal, but I hope that at the end of the day you made great connections with people, and that alone makes you want to come back next year, because it is such a wonderful event that Blizzard puts on, that alone is the worth of cost of admission and trouble, and usually con plague that you get afterwards. It's usually worth all that to say. And like I mentioned, my wife is pregnant, so we're expecting a kid in April. And as I told everyone after in the room, that I don't think I'm going to make it out next year or the year after that. Money is going to be tight one way or another. And if baby needs something, baby needs something. So this was kind of a year I really made a conscious effort to really show my appreciation for members of the community in certain ways, fun ways, serious ways, or a combination of them both. So Nine and Leviathan, if you didn't see the Twitter, they didn't get the real coins. I still have those. I paid the money for them, damn it. But I gave each one of them the beta coins, the 3D printed coins. So they have those beta coins because, well, this started as really their show. So they deserve to have the first beta prints. I have the first real print. Har har har. And then SVR, I made an entire drinking game out of his channel commands, and I styled it after a really bad samurai movie, like language and everything. I even made a black Chinese food takeout container as like the gift wrapping for it, and I made 3D printed dice that had the symbols of for the game, and one of them is the salvage button from Diablo 3 when you look at it. So I'm happy that he was happy with the game, even if it winds up being just kind of like a really elaborate gag gift. I'm happy he enjoyed that someone in the community really did appreciate him in that kind of way. And then the second to last gift was for Wolfcrier. And if you want to see what we did for him, Wolfcrier has like an 8 or 9 minute video on his channel, like his personal experience at BlizzCon. Like the first 3 or 4 minutes kind of deals roughly with what, not just what I did, but the larger Diablo 3 community that I helped rally to do, because I was going to do a gift for Wolfcrier and the gift I'll get to in a little bit for Brandy. I originally was going to do it myself, but it didn't feel like it was a Diablo 3 community gift if it didn't come from the community. Logic. So I got a whole bunch of the community to send me their signatures, kind of what I did for Nine and Leviathan on the Westmarch Workshop 100 episode for the gifts I sent them. And, you know, just to show that the community appreciates what he does. I mean, he's raised $40,000 plus for children charities, and it can only take a lot. I mean, he's an older gamer, not to his discredit, but you know, he's an older gamer. He has a wife, he has kids, he has to take care of them. He has a wacky work schedule that can call him in, you know, at the middle of the night for a long shift after just working his shift. Nine, you know that unfortunately so well.
Unfortunately, and he has a twin brother.
Yeah, so he has a twin brother
that, like, I guess
yeah.
no one knew about, and you know, it was like one of those ones where it's like you spend like that awkward minute like going and talking to him, and it's like, you're not Wolfcrier. Like,
yeah. So on top of all that, on top of being like a streamer in general, trying to get partnered, as well as supporting the community, doing a fucking charity drive every 3 months with all the taxes, organizing our community of cats, and making it successful every time, dealing with IRS and taxes and this. I'm like, if this is his first BlizzCon, he needs to be shown that he's appreciated. Like I can't let this fly. So he was the first one. Brandy was the second one that I thought of. And on top of the community gift, a poster of Tyrael with all our signatures and a really great saying I came up for him, I personally, and I stress personally, gave him the last of 5 signed vanilla collector's editions by the old development team. You know, double it, Jay Wilson. Like that development team that was still sealed with a game key that if he chooses, he could crack open and have Tyrael, well, not Tyrael wings, but you know, the white wings that all of us who got our D3 collector's editions, because him and his work, he's basically an angel to kids. So I figured, you know, this works too well. He needs to have wings of his own. So I don't know if he's actually cracked the game key and put him on, but that was something I felt I needed to do for him. And lastly, for the last gift was for Brandy, because our community is voracious at times. I think BlizzCon was a severe understatement with what happened there. But I really wanted to make sure Brandy felt that she was really appreciated. So kind of did a similar thing. I found a piece of artwork from the Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls art contest. That was a mouthful, from back in the day. And then it basically had a Death Maiden, which is now, at least back in the day before they switched over to not having CM named accounts. Now they just go by, you know, their personal accounts, you know, keep things easier, I suppose. That was who she chose to represent her. And then that Death Maiden was fighting a Crusader, a class that she very much likes and plays. So it's kind of like not dueling personalities, but both characters represented who she was. And I printed it out. It was in a frame, and it was matted, and was able to get her isolated at the welcome reception that the influencers and media and everything, if they get invited, they go to, along with about 24 people that were in the Diablo 3 community, and was able to really make her feel like she was appreciated, and that her efforts weren't in vain, and that we do recognize that even if we're not the best angels at some points. And on top of that, there was a video that was done that equally amplified that. And has Leviathan doing the Hexing Pan song, and has yours truly over there, Nineball, doing Rebecca Black's Friday and Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice, which is hilarious. It's hilarious. And no, I'm never gonna release that, because that's my little gift to myself.
Maybe we'll have to put that up as like a Patreon reward.
Well, if you ever got the Patreon up.
Yeah.
But I mean, and after, like, there's like too many memories to go over in this show. Like karaoke, as always, Korean barbecue, which was great and caused Nolan to get his gallbladder removed. If there's anything I've learned through Nolan's expense, is that Canadian healthcare is actually pretty damn good. But it's just the love of the community eventually overtook everything at BlizzCon, and it's what I remember, and it's what I always treasure about our community, even if I don't make it to the next one and the one after that. It's what I was always hold dear. And like I said, there's too many things I'm forgetting. Ashley and Dan, being able to go to their house on the Monday before we all left, and just chill, relax, and eat really good salami and cheese. If anyone's been paying attention to my Twitter, they probably saw that. Yeah, I still have some left in my fridge, anyways. But yeah, it was just despite Immortal, you could say all our friendships and everything we did will be just as immortal. Yeah. And I'll remember it for the next months and years to come, as I do with every BlizzCon. Except next year, my trip may be just $50 and just watching it from home and just taking a day off instead of a whole week and a half. Who knows?
Yeah. No, it was yeah. I definitely want to go with your point as well. So this one, despite the overall reaction to Diablo Immortal and such, and it wasn't anything that anybody expected or really wanted, that this was still a next level BlizzCon. And it's something that you just said, JR said on the last episode, we've said so many times on the podcast. It's not about the panels, it's not about the announcements. It's about seeing friends, seeing family that you only get to see once a year. It's worth it. It's so worth it to go and come out there and such. And that was one thing that I felt so strange about people going through. Oh, I feel bad for the people that went and paid all the money to go out there to see something about Diablo. It's like, well, one, you bought your ticket before we even knew anything was being announced for Diablo, period. And two, it's like, if you were only there for the announcement, then I don't know what to tell you. There's so much more that is going on that maybe you're just scared to go through and come and say hi. But it's like every year, our group grows. We're going through and just grabbing random people. It's like, oh hey, I like your show. I saw you guys last year. We're going to the pool. Come on, it's just it's that type of thing. We're going to grab some dinner. You want to come hang out? It's just that's what it is. That's all that BlizzCon is. And so
And
Yeah.
I was proud of us. We went to the pool like 2 or 3 times. We went to the spa, the hot tub ones. Like, I'm proud of us. We actually ventured out into like the somewhat wild and actually took advantage of all the amenities for once at the hotels, because usually it's like hotel, BlizzCon, copious amounts of drinking,
Yep.
hotel to sleep for like 7 hours if we're lucky, and then we do it again, rinse wash repeat for like a week.
God, I don't even. I wish that I had gotten like 7 hours of sleep at any point. This was actually the first BlizzCon that I got hit by jet lag. I was waking.
too.
I was waking up at 6 a.m. regardless of what time that I went to bed. So that Friday was a little bit rough because we were like up until like 1:30. I think I didn't fall asleep till like 2, and then up at 6.
Yeah. See, I was at least happy with myself that I wasn't sick the entire con, unlike last year. So even though my feet were killing me like the entire week almost, I was able to soldier on and like stay up to like 1 or 2, like at least whenever we all collectively thought like we'd go back to the hotel room. So that was another thing about this year. I was happy I was able to do everything to the fullest. Like if we were going back to the room, we went back. I wasn't going back to the room before everybody else. I was going back to the room with everybody else. Like didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. That was another thing that was I told myself like I was almost borderline gonna like tell like yourself and Leviathan in private, like if you see me trying to wimp out, like don't slap me, don't throw water at me, but like say, Dredge, you're acting like a little bitch. Let's go. I'm like, okay.
So what you're saying is at next year's BlizzCon, I need to text you every day, Dread, you're a little bitch. That's what I'm hearing.
I can't think of anything that witty for plausible deniability, so I suppose so.
Okay. All right. Plans have been made. Siri, set a reminder. And, yeah. That's done.
So, yes. So, even though it's much briefer than the forethought, it was much more love. Love is in the air. No, God, no.
Hashtag butt stuff.
Hashtag consensual butt stuff.
I cannot wait to see SVR have that Cards Against Humanity set done.
Oh man, he has to get the generator done, and then all the luscious cards, ready to unload. Sorry, I'm thinking about butt stuff and puns. It's bad. It's bad.
Yep. But
right, so
I was about to say
let's move on to
any
community stuff.
All right. So, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, we've got a lot of community items that we're gonna have to go through. We've got some items of the week to go through and show off, though that will come later. But would you actually like to go through and take the first email here from Lion Sword?
Let me make sure I have the right one. Okay. So Lion Sword sent in an email. Basically, if I'm looking at it, he sent it in October 17th. So this is quite a bit before BlizzCon. Sorry, Lion. I love you. You know me so well from the community roundup. I appreciate you. Never forget that. All right. Anyways, the email. Basically, the subject is possible features of Diablo Next, in quotation marks. See, he appreciates you too, Nine. Yeah, and he writes, with the hype train rolling onto BlizzCon in a few weeks, a friend of mine and I were discussing what features the next Diablo game may or may have, and fell on an interesting thought. I believe all of you have mentioned this before. Path of Exile is generally considered the next best action RPG after Diablo 3, and we know that GGG and Blizzard are at least friendly and communicate/share ideas. So I'm curious, what features of PoE, or just any new feature in general, would you guys like to expect to see in the next major Diablo game? I will share a couple of mine. So should I just go through those, and then if we have opinions, we'll tack on?
Yeah.
Okay. So he goes on to write, Diablo 3 has seven character classes, but you can really say it has closer to 28 or slightly more because of class sets are so transformative for class play style. The different sets for many classes play very differently from each other, and it oftentimes is a completely different experience. PoE has a base classes and then specializations within the base class, but no set gear. At least he thinks this is the case, and admittedly admits to not playing PoE that much. Whatever specialization you are, that's what you are. Can we imagine a world where set items are removed, or at least greatly reduced in power, compared to, maybe something like Diablo 2 scale, and the classes get specializations? Or take it a step forward and have the base class available until a certain level, and then you choose your specialization. Maybe that would give the game a bit more of an RPG feeling. And then he continues to say, a second thought is something I'm pretty sure was slated for Diablo 3 originally, skill runes. He says, yes, we technically have them attached to the skill itself, but skill runes are items that were supposed to be farmable and socketable in certain pieces of gear. Basically a mashup of legendary gems and legendary powers, I guess. Or at least that's the way he puts it. Skill runes could have been base level and you could increase, or the power could have been random, like legendary powers in Diablo 3. I'm assuming he's meaning something like affixes and the way they're random and rolling. I'm assuming. Diablo is, after all, a game about loot hunting, and maybe adding this to the loot hunt would be a good thing. Interested to hear your thoughts. So again, what features, be it PoE inspired or not, would you like to make it into a Diablo Next 4/mobile LOL?
If only he knew at the time.
If only he knew. The Prophet Lion Sword. Hype levels at max, Lion Sword.
Yeah. I know, I definitely, one of the things that kind of touches on there is like the whole like character classes, is that I feel as probably, in my opinion, like D3's like biggest lacking feature is like that terms of identity with the class that you're playing, and the fact that you can just swap gears and you've effectively like swapped classes, like how it kind of like is like pseudo like 28 different classes because you have different sets and that changes your play style. That I wish that there was a bit more permanence. That, I mean, which is a feature that he didn't state in there, but is something in Path of Exile, is that even though Path of Exile at the once you get towards like the end game, it is possible to respec, but it's expensive to do so, and so you have to do it you have to plan it out beforehand, because it costs you a bit in order to go through and respec. That's not just an easy, let me just port back to town and change my skill selection or change my gear set out. That I would like some form of actual like build permanence that allows you to identify with the class more so. And even if that means that it would be easier leveling up a whole different character, in order to go through and try out the difference between I want to be a pestilence necro versus a Rathma necro or something like that, then so be it. That might just be a price to pay, because that does actually add a certain level of replayability. We've talked about this before on the episode, that it's kind of like a false sense of progression. That even though you feel, well, I'm leveling up a whole new character for a whole new build, that you feel as if that's part of the progression, and that 8 hours that I sink into leveling up the brand new character to a point to make the build worthwhile, is 8 hours I could have spent grinding Paragon or what have you on this other character. That still feels good, in a certain way, because you're actually making progress. You're seeing the build take shape and form into, as opposed to just respec.
Yeah. God, I have so many ideas. So many ideas. If I had to settle on one,
yeah,
if I really had to
settle on one, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, if I had to settle on one, it would be around skills and abilities. Well, one of the same. And it would be, first off, let us choose what's a spender and a generator. And the way you would do that is you basically just balance the resource versus the resource it costs versus the resource it would generate, or versus the damage it would do, and you balance those numbers, and then you factor in the way that damage is applied, whether it's channeled, single target hit, cone factor, and AoE, and you balance those numbers. So not only are skills and abilities balanced in a credible way, so the or more or less equal is just what basically what you choose is what's different, you know, and no. We're not going to go on a tangent. And
yeah, I was about to say, I don't think that that's something that Path of Exile has figured out either.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be, so you would do that as the first thing. So the developer's not telling you, oh no, this can only be a generator, or no, this can only be a spender. You choose. So it would be groundbreaking only because, like, what? I'm so confused. What do I do? It would be amazing. I want that feeling. Give it to me. And then on top of that, have the skill runes as Lion's Sword remembered back from Diablo 3 beta days, where they were drops. You would get them, and then they would further alter the skill, and then you would have items that could be like, you know, there's a certain there's containers more or less, and these containers could be different things and can alter the runes. So you're building layers, and then finally these containers can have, for all intents and purposes, like talent point decisions. Kind of like, I think if I had, is it Wilson or is it last Epoch? I think it's Wilson that has the individual ability talent trees.
I don't know if Wilson has it or not, but last Epoch definitely does.
Okay, so it's last Epoch. So yeah. basically what I would want is the ability to choose what's a spender, what's a generator, find runes, many different runes that can alter that ability further, and then get containers to put around those runes that give me further choices, because that's a level of ability customization that we just don't have, and I feel that we're going to need base level wise in Diablo 4, whenever that comes out.
So to sum it up, the feature that you would like to see from Path of Exile into Diablo 4 is the one from last Epoch. Gotcha.
Well, I don't want the Mega Tray. In no way, shape, or form do I want the Mega Tray.
But I guess sum it up.
I want that concentrated coolness.
Yeah.
You know, things like impact, you know, all those key phrases that we kept on hearing over the years.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it back more to his question was specifically Path of Exile, not what would you like to see them change as far as the skill system in Diablo 4 period. But I mean, definitely, like, to kind of like, yeah, to like go with your point would be basically maybe shifting the power from items to some other system. Yeah, whether it be skills or skill runes or what have you, that actually adds that power back in.
Yep.
So, our next email here comes from... oops, did I skip one? Nope, I did not. Oops. The next email comes in from Sergeant Psycho. It's been a while. Sup, fellas? It's certainly been a long time with some computer issues and some time away from the game. Things are doing well here in southeastern Westmarch. Thoroughly enjoy teaching the new Iron Wolves how to use health potions and globes in between watching them train up to level 1. Still slaying the demons in Sanctuary. While I haven't done a season since I got my last stash tab, I'm fairly enjoying the double bounty bags. After running GRs and Greater Rifts for so long, the double bounties provide a good incentive to try something different for a while. I'm sorry? I've noticed a part of the difficulties in GRs are the 2 or 4 elite packs in a close area. Another unusual thing that I've noticed is that I see a particular affix very often during a game session, but then I won't see it for a while. Does anyone else notice that? Now for the Reader Geek reason for the email. I found the perfect pet for my Necro, Humbert Wessel. I've made him that pet even for my main Demon Hunter. I just think that's really cool to incorporate that type of stuff from the books. May your bounties be overflowing and your grinding be smooth. And I'll show a picture of that here in a little bit during our items of the week. But for those that don't know, Humbert Wessel is one of the pets. It's a floating skull that you can get in Diablo 3, but he's actually one of the characters from the series of novels that featured Zale. So that was Kingdom of Shadow and Moon of the Spider, as well as Storm of Light. That he was a little minor supporting character that helps Zale along by being like a little voice of wisdom. Yeah, it's good to hear from you, Sergeant Psycho, and go through and catch up. I'm actually gonna take the next email here real quick as well.
Go on ahead.
Yeah, this one is Watson's long-awaited Paladin email that he has been dying to know the answer to. That this one is, whatever became of the Paladins? Now the smaller body of Crusaders have returned from the east. What became of the larger group of Paladins? This one is a multi-part question because there is multiple factions of Paladins. The Paladin Order itself basically is defunct with the destruction, or not the total destruction, but with the kind of the shaking of the Zakarum, finding out that Mephisto was corrupted and was in charge of everything for so many years, and those paladins that were in service to the Zakarum of Kuros were basically all minions of Mephisto, more or less, wittingly or unwittingly, and that section, along with the majority of the Zakarum faith, has kind of gone defunct. They're, as of Diablo 3, they're still scrambling and trying to keep themselves relevant and say, hey, look, that's not us. That was some part of the faction that got corrupted, but the true tenets of the Zakarum are still just and holy. But the paladin that you're familiar with from Diablo 2 actually wasn't from Kuros and the Church of Zakarum. That paladin was actually from Westmarch. It was the Holy Order of Westmarch. And they were basically the rank and file soldier for them, that even though they were an offshoot of the Zakarum, they didn't report to Kuros. They were separate. And so they more or less survived the corruption of the Zakarum, but given the state of Westmarch after the events of Reaper of Souls, there probably aren't too many of them around still, as the vast majority of the populace of Westmarch, including their armed forces, were more or less destroyed. What became of them afterwards? Don't know. Well, I guess we're going to have to wait. Diablo Immortal isn't even really going to answer this one too much. We're going to have to wait till Diablo next to really find out what happened to the Paladins themselves. Because like I said, there are two. I'm sure that there are still, the true original Zakarum Paladins. Because it seems that the major center of worship had moved over to Chaldeum. And I'm sure that there's still going to be some standing order of paladins with whatever survived to Westmarch after the Reaper of Souls. So there you go. But definitely the Crusaders are the big badasses. They're the cool guys on the scene now that they've come back from their journeys going through and trying to root out the source of the corruption of the Zakarum faith. And they don't think that Mephisto was enough, that there's still more to be done. Who knows? They might even see the Paladins of Westmarch as a perversion of the true nature of what the Paladin Order used to be, and they might have issues with them. That would be a really cool aspect to go through and take a look at. But in the interest of time, I'll have to cut it there. So yeah. If you want to go ahead and take the next email, I think this one is from David.
Yes. David sent an email, says Diablo theory. Okay, guys. Diablo 3 Battle Royale. Discuss.
This was before BlizzCon.
Yes.
Little did he know.
Preface it.
Yeah. Diablo PvP coming in patch 1.10. Still.
1.10. When will it come?
He might not be working at Blizzard anymore, but I will keep Jay Wilson to his word that PvP is coming in patch 1.10. Now I feel the need to see if I can get Jay Wilson on the show just to ask him that question. Is PvP still coming in patch 1.10? But I don't think that he'd appreciate that. That I respect him too much to do that to him.
You'll lose any and all possibility to see his glorious Warhammer model collection. So I don't think you want to ruin that.
God, and if you are a fan of Warhammer or anything like that, I think it's long buried in his Twitter. It'd probably be easier to find on his Instagram page. But God, Jay Wilson is an amazing painter. This is actually digressing, tangent. Little story that I heard at BlizzCon was actually tales of just how much ass Jay Wilson and Chris Metzen kicked in Warhammer 40k doubles tournaments that they would have like around Blizzard or around like kind of like in the the Orange County area, that they would go to, that the two of them would go to doubles tournaments and just destroy everyone with a joint Necron force. So that there you go. We brought Warhammer into the conversation, and now it's leaving.
You're welcome, everybody.
But our next email, now we're going through and starting to come to the post BlizzCon era of emails. This first one is coming up from Slacker Rise, who I believe is still here in chat with us tonight. But sup, fellas. It's been a very long time since I sent an email, but I felt it was time to say something. I always try to listen and watch all episodes of the Westmarch Workshop to get my Diablo updates, even though I barely play the game nowadays due to life. Truly appreciate both of you, Nineball and Leviathan, for staying true to the cause, and hope to see more content from you guys as always. Diablo is a game that I will always truly enjoy and love, although I'm a little sad that I didn't get a Druid or Diablo 4 announcement, but honestly, when Diablo Immortal was announced, I was stoked. Why? Because from a lore and gameplay perspective, there is so much potential to explore, and I'm sad to see that the passionate community is so blinded by hate and grief that they fail to see the potential for us as a community to influence the game's future development at this point in time, since it is still in such early development. As Kriparian aptly mentioned in his YouTube video, if done right, this game could be so much more. And that's really one of those things when you have Kriparian that's going through and like defending the potentiality of a Diablo title in Blizzard. He obviously, is not afraid to speak his mind on things, and we all know his opinion on Diablo 3. But the fact that he sees the potential in Diablo Immortal, I think is something that definitely hasn't been given enough credit by the community. Though it's not really what they're focused on at the moment. I'm also a concerned player, as despite the hate for the intro video, it made me realize how small the community for Diablo has become. I mean, 300 to 400,000 dislikes is a small number in the larger scheme of things. The game has sold millions, and yet only so few care about the game now. To be honest, the push for the mobile app could never be more timely, but the devs really need help and ideas. Long story short, I have a few interesting ideas to make the game work for the passionate casual gamers like me. Character customization. Can we please have customizable characters? I want to be able to feel connected to my character and not just some generic character who I only ever change the gear on. I want to be able to make my character skinny or fat or short or tall or change the color of their hair. Which is definitely one of those things which never been a big hallmark of the Diablo series and Diablo 3 with being able to pick your sex. was like the closest that we've gotten. But I feel as if, the game definitely could reach the point whenever next iteration that they have for the series, the character customization could easily be something that we can do. I mean, hell, look at any of Cryptic's titles. You could spend 10 hours making your character if you so chose, with the power of all of the character editors that they put into the original City of Heroes, Star Trek Online, Neverwinter. It is amazing. Prime Evils or other playable classes. Some awesome mobile games have factions where you're able to play on both sides, so why not let us play as the Prime Evils or even their generals? I mean, yes, I would love the usual Nephilim character, but come on, let's go all in and unique here. It's a mobile game, so why not? We're fighting for possession of the possession of Worldstone shards, right? So would it make more sense for the battles for the possession of the zones, shards, dungeons, sieges, wars? Imagine Guild Wars, but in the Diablo universe. This could even be an extension of the Sin Wars itself. Siege Wars could be a thing, like invading heaven or hell or sanctuary with your brethren. Some character actually mirror, or maybe some characters actually mirror some classes. Maybe like Mephisto is a wizard, Duriel is a barbarian, Belial an assassin, so on and so forth. Just to give some examples. I mean, there are some workable similarities, so they can share some skills and change a few passives here or there. Okay, I know it may not fit into the timeline, but maybe you can just give us some various generals of the Prime Evils instead that we can fight to retrieve their fallen lords or build influence for Belial or Asmodan. Just saying that I wouldn't mind playing as an angel as well, because why not? This would be kind of like a really interesting aspect, maybe of their version of Challenge Rifts, where you get to go through and maybe find like what was it? Kind of the Illidan quest line in Legion, where you actually went back in time and played as various characters from the past. Maybe it's something that, touching one of the Worldstone shard pieces, you'd have a limited time event where you could relive like the visions or the history of some previous event to go back in time. Number 3, 5-minute modes, PvP, instant dungeon, challenge rifts. Basically, we should have some mode that can appeal to those players who only get in a quick day or a quick game as part of their whole adventure experience. More modes and variety of play would be a good thing to appeal to different types of players. That's something that I can definitely appreciate, is having something like one of the mobile games that I'm playing at the moment, Realm War. Like, a match is 3 minutes at most, and so that's something that I can, during downtime, at work and such, I can quickly, easily get in like 1 or 2 matches or something like that. Nice and easy. And this is something that they did say in various interviews, that they were looking at being able to have various gameplay that you can hit that quick. I'm at a stoplight versus I have the day off. That they do want to have that varied experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Offline modes give users the option to do vending, trading, army building, or maybe different capture points, just to name a few. I mean, we can learn some point from idle heroes, so that even though we're offline, there's some sort of progression. I mean, it would be nice to have multiple aspects to the game rather than just purely adventure hack and slash. They currently don't have any plans right now for an offline mode, so I'm not sure how that will work out. Social networking. Connecting to my earlier points, the China market was WeChat, or basically a super app, not just a messaging app, but a one-stop portal where users can access an innumerable number of approved third-party services like hailing a cab, buying movie tickets, ordering food, paying bills, spending money, or sending money to friends. All these can be integrated and done in one single app. Imagine a Diablo Immortal app that can chat, upload replays, take social calls, follow streamers, listens to podcasts, create, organize guilds or faction wars, sell your epic items, share artwork, or simply just try to communicate. That way we don't have to turn to third-party apps to grow the Diablo community or even cross-promote other Blizzard events or offers. Essentially one app to rule them all. And this is funny because this is something that a lot of people have been asking for BattleNet to become, and that we were originally hoping for with BattleNet 2 when StarCraft 2 launched. And we do know that BattleNet is coming to Diablo Immortal, and so we can only hope that they continue to develop these social features for it, because that would be awesome.
Yeah. Make it good.
And then finally, some other design points to consider as well. Wilson's passive skill wheel is worth considering, but I'm sure Blizzard can do better. Ability skill progression instead of level progression, Clash Royale-ish, so that we have lower damage numbers. Focus on the variety in legendary powers to make unique playstyles rather than high numbers where every character is OP, just like in Overwatch. Lower damage numbers and levels to reward skilled play instead of how many botting hours I put into grinding Paragon levels. And for the Westmarch hub, instead of a massive on-screen orgy of characters, which would clutter the already small screen like most top-down MMORPGs, I hate being unable to see my own character. So I guess the idea there is having that hub have more shards or instances, so that way you're not maxed out on characters. And then, yes, I apologize for the long email, but I thought that sending this to you guys who are closer to the devs might put my ideas across rather than spamming the forums, which would just be lost somewhere through all the hate. I thought it might be worthwhile discussion to provide some fresh perspective to recover from the shock.
Yeah, I mean, those are all generally good ideas. I mean, the reason why I got a chuckle at the beginning of the email, when he was talking, about, wanting to play a demon or an angel and, racing to collect the soul shards, I was reminded what my original idea of what the next game after Rebirth Souls was. And it was funny, but I called it, but it seems actually more right than wrong. I called it basically Diablo Inuyasha. That we were basically running, because they said that, well, the world stone may not be destroyed after all. Like, it threw out that little tidbit.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I was like, oh my god, like, what if the natural progression in power for the Nephilim, the angels, and the demons is that all of a sudden Nephilim are now the secret weapon, and now the angels are in their own perverse way trying to court favor, or still trying to eliminate the Nephilim, but the demons know the power of the Nephilim, and they're just trying to corrupt them and pervert them so they can just be used as tools. And you as a Nephilim would actually be going around killing angels or demons or other Nephilim who had pieces of the world stone, and you would collect them, and then and then you'd be able to use those as talent points on a special talent tree that was half angelic, half demonic, and you could choose a side. But it wasn't so much choosing a side as a faction as much as demonic was aimed towards a certain set of particular skills and abilities, while angelic was aimed at another particular set of skills and abilities. And which way you went would amplify the natural skills and abilities and passives, etc., that you had. So it's funny that in that email that was brought up and reminded me of that. I'm going, oh my god, that idea, that was such a joke. Even that has some bearing in this. It's like another don't let your memes be dreams type deal.
Well, would you like to take the next one from Johan?
Johan, do I have that one? Do you know the subject title of that one, just so I can be sure?
Johan.
Oh, Johan. Do you know
thoughts and item of the week for the podcast?
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Alrighty. So, Johan. Sorry. I'm horrible. Did I mention I'm horrible? Anyways, sorry.
Well, if I'm not doing it, someone has to.
I know. Someone has to be terrible. It's my turn this week. So, writes in, hello, Westmarch Workshoppers. What a weekend! What a BlizzCon! I think it's pretty clear what the community thinks about the new announcement, and my guess it will be discussed in the podcast. So I won't rattle about it for too long. I watched VODs of Quinn, 69, Big Daddy, King Crondor. He still makes videos for Diablo. Anyways, Wolfcrier, Your Day One Closing, and many others about their opinions. Wolfcrier's VOD was close to 100% of how I've felt. After the opening ceremony, I closed the BlizzCon app and didn't even watch the panels till Monday morning. My energy was just gone. Still need to watch the Q&A from day 2. No one expected the mobile version, like you said, 0% chance.
Yeah.
As he has a smile winky face in there. While writing this a few days later, still have the feeling of being disappointed that this was the wrong place at the wrong time to announce the mobile game. The concept story of Diablo Immortal does have huge potential, though. And what if they announce a true crossplay between PC console and mobile phone? I don't think that has ever been done before for an action RPG, and would be a true revolution. Just think about it, about a full game playable on PC console, and you can play it to a certain degree on your mobile phone. Same character getting loot in multiple ways. I watched Riker's stream time from BlizzCon, and Brandy did mention that there is some D3 news which will be coming basically after BlizzCon. Do you have any info about that or thoughts? And lastly, he's wanted to contribute with the item of the week, which I don't know. We'll get to it later.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll leave that for a little bit later. But he has a Sacred Harvester to look out for. And then just wraps it up with saying, Lester would like to thank Wyatt and Brandy and all the developers. They received too little credit for their work. Also, I don't think they are responsible for the choices being made at the convention. Kind regards, Johan from the Netherlands.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some potential there. They don't seem to be pursuing the aspect of having like that cross-platform play, but there is the World of Warcraft app where you can, even though you're not playing the game, it gives you some added incentive and such that you can improve your character, from the app. Maybe it's something that they would look forward to doing, like with the next Diablo title, or having some sort of tie-in between things that you do in Diablo Immortal affecting Diablo 3 or Diablo Next. We don't know, but it is one of those ones that might help alleviate some of the concerns that the community has if this would be more of something that is propped up to be what's the word I'm looking for, to support the main PC title. And that we kind of are getting the idea from Blizzard that this is going to be just like a standalone title. It's just going to be mobile, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, for the sake of time, briefly, I think as the rage and hysteria over Diablo Immortal is finally beginning to calm down a little bit, I think people will kind of take a second look at it and be like, maybe not this, but if maybe changed, or if it's done again for Diablo 4/Next, trademark 9-Ball 2017, they may be more open to it, especially if it has a lot more features built into it that can just like automatically be done. I think a lot of people will be up for that. If Blizzard tries to throw their weight behind it and tries to get some form of crossplay, where exactly how you put it with the WoW app, that if there's certain aspects in Diablo 4 that are fine to do while playing Diablo 4, but if it's a case of like min-maxing, or like as we all kind of said and agreed on the pre-convention show, that if you actually had a hideout and a hut, and you had vendors, and you had craftsmen that you could like send on quests, or just there's just time gates that you have to work through. If you had the mobile app integration that you can do it at work and have that perfect min max efficiently going, I think that would be a great way of doing it as well. So that's probably the next Diablo Immortal version 2.0 attempt.
Well, we'll see. And to answer Johan's last question, as far as D3 updates, we know that something is coming, and we know that it's more than just that is going to be a little bit of a change to how they've been doing the seasons. So it's something that's just not going to be like a double bounty or something along those lines, and that there's going to be also some other changes coming alongside that, whether it's going to be balance changes, quality of life changes, or like some maybe a small sprinkling of new items. We unfortunately don't know. We haven't heard anything else, but hopefully by the next episode we will have some more idea of what shape that will take.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yep. And this next email comes in from Joe. How's it going, fellas? Subtle iteration. I like how it's evolving. First time, long time guy here. Love what you guys are doing. Keep it up. So regarding Diablo Immortal, I'm super disappointed just like everyone else. I found out on the Blizzard launcher after work and really just started laughing. It still seems like a joke, but if we just take the game for what it is, I believe that we can enjoy it. Blizzard needs to mend some fences for sure, but even if they announce D4 at BlizzCon, it would still be years away. Immortal should have been announced in a much different way, but it's still a brand new Diablo experience. My hope is that this game brings in more revenue and allows them to push Diablo development across the board. If there is more than one project coming, plus more D3 content, then let's just bring the hype back. Anyways, guys, love the podcast. You could talk about any game and I would tune in. Definitely appreciate that. I'm sure Leviathan does as well. We'll try to keep it Diablo focused. We'll definitely focus in on that. But yeah, I'm willing to give Diablo Immortal a chance. Though I will remain cautious, I should say. As I said in the previous episode, my biggest concern is NetEase.
That's the word.
Yeah, like I have full confidence that Blizzard will be able to make an amazing mobile title, they could potentially deliver on like a Diablo-like experience on mobile. But NetEase is my question. Will they do it, and will they lock features behind a paywall that prevent us from having that true experience? We'll see.
Yep.
This next email here, this one comes in from longtime listener Juno Reactor. Sup fellas. It was very nice to meet you guys again. We've been running into Juno Reactor. He's another one of like our little community that we run into like every year at BlizzCon. But BlizzCon 2018 is over, and I had an amazing time there. Thanks for letting me hang out with your crew, Dreadscythe, Knight, SVR, Monstrous, etc. Leviathan, sorry I couldn't say bye to you. I guess you were busy butt stuffing. Sorry, not sorry.
Wait, I need a moment. That was perfect.
It is.
Butt stuffing.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving's around the corner. It's awesome.
And given the context of why Leviathan went and ran out, it's also funny. Nineball, here's a video of Juno's show from San Francisco that we both missed. If I had known that Juno Reactor was like literally playing in San Francisco shortly after BlizzCon, I would have changed my plans. But that's what I get for being only like a pseudo fan. I'm not a true fan of Juno Reactor. I'm so sorry. My thoughts on Diablo Immortal. I know the game isn't what people wanted, but I think people should give it a chance. As I told Nineball, the graphics on this game look really smooth and detailed for a mobile game. The controls were a bit tricky at first, but you quickly learn how to use them. Although we just got a demo to try out, I'm excited about the game's MMO functionality and its interactive skills. I hope Blizzard takes notes and figures out what works and what doesn't, and then incorporates that back into the new PC game. I hope your community feedback goes well. Sorry I won't be there. I don't like talking. But put me down for being excited about Diablo Immortal, but I'm keeping my expectations down because it is a mobile game. Aside, if Blizzard were to give out beta keys to this game, how many people who are going to give negative feedback would jump at the chance to play? Just thinking. To Blizzard, thanks for a great BlizzCon. I had a great time there, and I'd love to keep going there every year. My favorite moment from BlizzCon was when Sideshow, one of the analysts for Overwatch World Cup, drank a whole bottle of maple syrup. I'm in the crowd shot after he drinks it, if anyone wants to know. Meeting people on the dev team was another highlight for me. Mr. Don Vu, you are still the man. And that is so true. Don, you are the man. Also, thanks for the Book of Adria, which I'm reading right now. To quote some music lyrics, I see friends shaking hands saying, "How do you do?" They're really saying, "I love you." And to end it off, lore question for Nineball. How does the book The Order fit into the storyline of Diablo Immortal? Does it come after Immortal, or is it part of it? I know that The Order is the story of how Deckard Cain meets up with Leah and is a prelude to Diablo 3. I get 2 lore questions in an episode. Woo! Not sure, to be honest. The timing of The Order was a little nebulous as to how far it took place after Diablo 2, though it takes about 8 or 9 years after the events of Diablo 1. From the timeline at the panel that we got at Diablo Immortal, that makes it seem as if it's roughly 6 or 7 years after the events of Diablo 2, which would actually still put it a couple of years after Diablo Immortal. So from the looks of things, where Diablo Immortal is going to start, Leah is not going to be there because Deckard doesn't find her until afterwards. And the way that all this comes together is that Leah is 8 years old during the events of the Order. And so, Leah was conceived immediately following the events of Diablo 1, and Diablo 2 seems to, from Blizzard's timeline, taken place essentially about roughly a year after Diablo 1. That kind of like the course of Diablo 2 is, a year after Diablo 1. So we know that we've got at least a couple of years of Immortal before we hit that timeline of the Order. Does this mean that we could go through and see the Order from Cain's perspective? Could we maybe change things up a little bit and take some of the events of the Order? I mean, it would be retconning the book, but it'd still be cool. For those that haven't read it or don't know anything about the events of the Order, Deckard Cain stumbles upon one of Belial's minions who's attempting to go through and resurrect the tomb beneath a town called Gale Cool, which is a tomb of like 1,000 of the most powerful Vajeri mages ever, and that their corpses were entombed there so that way no one could ever tap into that level of power ever again, and use that as a force to either summon more demons from hell, or just under the command of Belial, God knows what. But I mean, it's a really, really cool and awesome story, and the lore implications about what happens there are awesome to actually see like fleshed out in a game. So, bam. That would definitely be awesome. And since it does look like that is taking place before the events of the Order, if Immortal is successful, it's something that we might maybe say we don't get to participate in it directly. We could, maybe see some of those things pop up as an event, or at least maybe explore Gale Cool and other things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, to be general about it, but to be honest about it, when I was first getting into Diablo, I'm a Diablo 3 baby. I didn't play Diablo 2 or Diablo 1. I know. Feel pity for me. But it was, to this day, I will always say it was Sixon, who was originally running Diablo fans, and he had a couple of authors, I think maybe also himself, that did little lore tidbits, and that got me into liking the Diablo universe. And even though it may seem a little light on the surface when you're playing the game, when you kind of dig down into it, oh, there's so many stories, there's so many factions, there's so many individuals and groups that you can get into. So yeah, I mean, being able to having that as maybe a possibility in the future is always a great thing, because it's one of those rare times where something was put into a book and you actually get to play through it. It's not like how what most of the World of Warcraft folks feel like, where a lot of their lore and story gets pulled out of the game into books or cinematics or other avenues that you don't get to play it, so you don't really get to feel it.
Yeah, you don't get to experience this awesome major turning point in the story because we put it in a book, and then we really didn't like how it turned out 3 years later, so we're retconning the book.
Yeah.
But you want to take the next email from Jason? Hello?
See? Audio cue. Jason writes in, hello, I just discovered your podcast. Are you making me read this one? Oh, I feel like you guys should, well, at least you should be reading this, but okay, fine. Hello, I just discovered your podcast and I am loving it. I am a new player to Diablo 3 and was wondering if you have any suggestions for resources for new players. I just started a Crusader in Season 15 and would love some tips on class stuff, gear, specs, so on. I rolled a Barb on Xbox 360, bought and rolled a Barb on PS4, and I am now on Switch. Wow. Dedication for new player.
Nice.
We like you.
Yeah.
Get your friends. We need more of you. I love the portable factor of the Switch. The Crusader is my first seasonal character, and I am wanting to learn more about the game. May have to kind of put this email in a holding cell maybe for next show. Leviathan's on, he can maybe give a little more personal factors. But before we move on, wraps up with just a simple thanks again for the amazing podcast. Keep up the good work.
To my understanding, there isn't too much that changes with the respect to the top Crusader builds on console. So for that, in Minigis, before you react, a good source of information is actually on Reddit. At the moment, not our Diablo, but if you go to our Diablo 3 Crusaders, there are a lot of tips and tutorials as far as going through for building the Crusader, as well as covering like the basics of gameplay for going through and checking that out. So that's where I would go through and start at. The one key thing is that there are the majority of guides and things that you'll find are designed around the PC and not the consoles. There are a few small little differences with how some of the classes play between PC and console that will cause changes. I don't think the Crusader, particularly some of its top builds, especially like Icons and such, that are affected by that. So you really don't have to worry too much. But that would be one of those ones that you can always go through and take a look. But and normally, even our Diablo is usually like a great resource and tool. But because of the fallout over Diablo Immortal, that is basically just a place that people are going through and airing their grievances at the moment. But it seems that the class subreddits are still pretty safe, and that there's still some good discussions that are going on there. So that's where I would go through and check out. If you go to our Diablo, in the side panel, you will be able to find direct links to all of those particular subreddits. And then you can also go around, and there are some communities that are dedicated to the particular console versions. Though I haven't really spent a lot of time on there, so I'm not quite sure. And also, just yeah, hey, thank you for being a fan. I'm glad that you found the show and that you enjoy going through and listening to us. But yeah, I believe for the Crusader, like right now, especially on for console play, in a cons Crusader would be a great place to start. So you'd probably want to go and like start looking up there, or I should say specifically a Condemn Crusader would be a great place to start and play through. And then go ahead.
You said a whole lot more than I know. So,
yep.
Yeah. What that guy said.
Yeah. And then coming to our final email, we're wrapping it up here soon, guys. This one comes in from Andrews. Sup, fellas? Just want to share my reaction to this. I was at work when Diablo Immortal was dropped. On my break, I saw that Diablo uploaded a new video and started watching it. I didn't have an introduction like you folks before the video, and that it takes some time in between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. So I was hit hard by confusion. Tyrael is dead? What? Hold on, wait, how? So I skipped back to see if I missed something, and yeah, I did. That NetEase logo right after Blizzard's. Who in the Angelic Council's name is NetEase? Well, anyways, proceeded to watch the cinematic and thought it was pretty neat, but then at the end it was coming to Androids and iOS. First thing that popped in my head was the only ARPG I played on my phone extensively was back in 2009, Gameloft's Demon Hunter 1. If you're not familiar, it's just a story mode which can be played with a friend. It was basically like Diablo 3 vanilla, and yes, no microtransactions whatsoever. Well, that's not that bad, I thought, but then it hit me. Fast forward to the current version of Dungeon Hunter franchise, and it is rigged with microtransactions and pay-to-win elements. But wait, maybe it will be like Fallout Shelter. So man, I couldn't wait to get home to try and get all of my answers. After work, rushed home to see the Diablo Next panel that I had access to the virtual ticket, and oh my god, it's even worse than I imagined. It's a fully fledged Diablo experience made in collaboration with the creators of Crusaders of Light. And I've tried that game. It's not that bad, but every couple of hours you're hit with a brick wall and you can either pay money to get enough power to overcome it instantly, or grind for hours or days or weeks to overcome. P.S. On a side note, have you noticed everything they prior promised regarding lore for Diablo 3, they're now putting into this Marble? Just not sure which video or QA it was, but I believe they gave us the Shrouded Moors. They said that they were looking into new ways to give us more content and lore than was just, than this was one of it. But looks like Diablo 3 is left to rot and it's all going to be coming to mobile. And I believe that is true. That was something that, trying to remember who it was that said it. I do remember having a conversation with Brian Kindergan, but that was prior to the Shrouded Moors, about talking about non-linear storytelling in Diablo and how these additional zones and such. But I do believe that was covered by someone at one of the panels, talking about how like going and doing like storytelling within these zones was something that they would like to continue to do. But PSS, attach my first primal of the season and hope that the PTR that they mentioned on Riker stream is actually coming. It is, that we know of, we just don't know when. I know Watson in chat and some other people were saying the 21st, but we've had no official confirmation of anything. I have no idea when that patch or PTR is going to be hitting us. But yeah,
yep.
I mean, I think that goes through and sums up, at least like this is just echoing again back to my thoughts. Blizzard Diablo mobile title, awesome. NetEase, not so awesome. So, I mean, we'll go through and see. Especially, it's like one of those, like, you see, it's like, Wyatt Chang, Matthew Berger, Richie Morella, they're all going through, and I hope I said his last name correctly. They're all going through, and they're involved with this Immortal project. So there are some really big names and very talented people that are going through and helming development. It's just, what is the final product going to look like? Trust Blizzard, not so much NetEase.
Yeah, it's like how I said in the Diablo Immortal discussion at the beginning of the show. No matter how good, how much good you try to put into the product, and how much you try to keep in mind that it may get better and there may be a lot more content that they put out, the economic model is going to basically lift or crater this thing.
It's the make or break point.
Yeah, it's like the only thing that matters, and it's a little unfortunate that that's what it is, but that's what it's going to be. So that's what we have to look out for.
Yep. And that does catch us up on the emails. Like I said, we had quite a few in order to go and get through. It is pushing us a little bit long here on the episode, but we're just going to go and kick through the items of the week really quick. And so our first item here comes from 42. It's a primal orb of infinite depth. And this bad boy clocks in at 485 to 600 damage, 1,000 intelligence. Critical hit chance by 10%, has been re-rolled to reduce cooldown of all skills by 8%, and increases the explosive blast damage by 15%. And the secondary effect of ignores durability loss, and of course the actual legendary effect of each time that you hit an enemy with explosive blast, your damage is increased by 10%, your damage reduction is increased by 20% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. Very, very beautiful wizard item there.
Primal death.
The second one comes in from Lala, who is great going through, seeing and hanging out again at BlizzCon. This is Primal Aetherwalker that she did go through and mention that this is one of the things that she looks forward to finding every season, and that she did take last season off, but she's now 5 for 5 seasons for going through and playing that, specializing like a bounty wizard for going and doing the few bounty runs that she does run. And so she's happy that she continues her season streak of always being able to find one of these primal. And this Aetherwalker goes through and clocks in at 3,336 DPS. Has been re-rolled for 10% base damage, 1,000 intelligence, increases attack speed by 7%, secondary affix of plus 14 maximum arcane power, and of course the legendary property of teleport no longer has a cooldown but instead costs 25 arcane power.
That's tasty. I still can't believe that 5 seasons, always getting one. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's a interesting sort of look right there.
Yeah, for an interesting item too. Yeah. Our next item, this one comes in from Sergeant Psycho. This is the Humbart Wessel. If you're not an avid pet collector within Diablo 3, this comes from the Menagerie Goblin that you can go and find, not in Rifts, so you'll actually have to go out and do bounties in order to go and try and find this one, or just do goblin farming, out there in adventure mode. And then our next item, this one goes through. This one comes in from Johan, as he went and mentioned earlier. This is his first and only Sacred Harvester that he's been able to find. And this one is an Ancient, clocking in at 2,997 DPS, 8% weapon damage, 865 intelligence. Has been re-rolled to increase area damage by 23%. Has been augmented with a level 80 gem for 400 intelligence. There's a secondary effects of a 1.2% chance to chill on hit. And of course the secondary effect of the Soul Harvest now stacks up to 10 times. With a Ronald McDonald's for good measure.
Good old Happy Meal.
Yep. And then our final email, this one comes in from Andrews. And this one here is a Primal Liliana's Wings, or Liana's Wings, sorry, forgive me. And so this is the first primal that he went through and found this season. And this bad boy clocks in at 3,676 DPS. Has 10% weapon damage, 1,000 dexterity, and is rerolled to increase attack speed by 7%. Secondary property of 12 max discipline. And then the legendary effect of Shadow Power now also triggers Smokescreen. And that will actually bring us to the end of our items of the week. We definitely go through, and we thank you for going and sending us those items, sending us those emails. We love to go through and hear from our fans. So if you want to contribute to the show, if you want your thoughts heard or your gear shown off, please send us an email at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Again, if you want to go through, give us your feedback, give us your thoughts, whether it be BlizzCon, Diablo, Immortal. By the time we go through and have our next episode, we all hope that we're going to have something to talk about for the Diablo 3 in Season 16. Send us an email, and again, that is westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. We are also on Twitter. We're at the WM Workshop, and you can also find us live every other Wednesday. This week was a little bit wonky, but every other Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. Go ahead, follow us. We've got more shows to go through and support. You can, I believe we're the only ones that broadcast live currently from the Twitch channel. But if you sub to support, it not only supports Westmarch Workshop but BlizzPro as a whole. So everything that we go through and do, our other show, Well Met, the Hearthstone podcast, and then the whole BlizzPro series of websites, including Diablo.blizzpro.com, where you can find all things Diablo over there on that channel, mostly head up by our good friend here, Dreadscythe. I should point the other direction. There we go. And then, of course, you can even follow us in clan, or in game. We are the BlizzPro clan. We've got tons of spaces, so go ahead, jump on in. Let us know, that you want to join. Let us know who you are, and get your spot in, all good and set for Season 16. If you don't want to leave your current clan, you can also join our in-game community, which just do a search for Westmarch Workshop. We are also on Discord at discord.gg/BlizzPro. I've been hanging out there even when I'm not playing Diablo, so you can usually find me in there most weeknights. Usually a little bit towards the later side, but I like to just hang out, chat with fans and such. And then, of course, you can follow us all here individually. I am at 9ballgamer on Twitter, and you can follow me at twitch.tv/9ball. Sir not appearing in this episode, Leviathan, can be found at LeviathanD3 on Twitter, and twitch.tv/Leviathan111. And Dread, go ahead and drop us some social shout-outs there for yourself, sir.
As of right now, you can find me at Dreadscythe on Twitter. Don't really do anything on YouTube. Don't really do anything involving the Facebooks. Yeah, that's it for now.
Okay.
There's more coming, probably at the beginning of the year, after all the holiday festivities, but we'll announce it when we get, or I'll announce it when it gets a little bit closer.
All right, and with that is going to bring us to the end of the episode. Thank you again for going through and turning in. All of those that are here live with us tonight, thank you for staying with us, even though we started late, we ran long. It's past midnight now. I've got to be up in 5 hours for work. I'm going to call it here.
Sorry, not sorry.